Hello, Halton. Welcome to Healthy Minds, Healthy Lives. I'm your host, Nadirah Nazeer. Wouldn't it be great if you can get a DNA test that will let you know which medication you are risk adverse, what nutrition, lifestyle, medications you should take so that you can live your best self? Well, today's discussion, I have two great guests with me, which is the first one is the president of DNA Labs. His name is Moni Lustig, as well as Dr. Aaron Goldman, who's the chief science officer at DNA Labs. We're going to be talking about the great technology that they have and the reason why each of us should be taking a DNA test. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Nadir. Thank you for having us here.
Yeah. So, Moni, we're going to start with you. Tell us a little bit more about the history of DNA Labs and how that came about.
DNA Labs was founded just over 6 years ago in Toronto when Aaron and I met together with a couple of other individuals. We decided to join forces, start a company that was centered around pharmacogenomics. And from there, it was expanded to lifestyle genomics, to fertility testing. And we do work today with hospitals, with pharmacies, with doctors. We're in Canada and the US.
And you guys been around for how long?
6 years.
Excellent. So Dr. Aaron Goldman, tell us about you. You are actually the chief science officer. So tell us a little bit more about the technology behind this DNA.
Sure. We use what's called a genotyping technology. You might have heard of what DNA sequencing is. And just to step back a second, DNA is really like a long string of, it's a chemical that's a long string of letters, A's, T's, C's, and G's. You might have seen that in the media or in movies like the movie Gattaca. So DNA sequencing is actually reading the DNA, A, G, G, T, C, C. Whereas genotyping is a lot quicker, more cost effective. And what we do is, we know that there's normally a G at this certain location, but some people have a C. And if you have that C, that might influence how you metabolize drugs or how you respond to vitamins or whatever. We're using what's called the genotyping technology to read the DNA.
So I want to talk about the different type of DNA testing. How many different type of DNA testing can somebody take?
Sure. Well, there's a whole bunch of different types of tests out there. You might have heard of companies like 23andMe and Ancestry.com. That's sort of consumer genomics or consumer DNA testing, where you spin a tube and send it off to the lab, and they'll tell you about your ancestry, where you came from, maybe even find long lost relatives, and that sort of thing. There's also forensic DNA testing. So if there's a crime scene, the blood or other types of material are collected and analyzed for DNA to match with certain databases. There's paternity DNA testing, so people can figure out who the father is, like as you've seen on Maury Povich and those types of shows. Then there's hereditary DNA testing, which is looking at risk for hereditary diseases like cancers or certain, heart diseases, that type of thing. But what we do is slightly different. So we do, as Moni mentioned at the beginning, we do a test called pharmacogenetics, pharma meaning drugs and genetics. So it's really looking at a person's DNA and figuring out what medications will work or won't work based on their DNA. So that's one type of testing that we do. The other type of testing that we do is nutrition and lifestyle testing. So here, instead of looking at what your DNA says about drugs and how you deal with drugs, it's what your DNA, what your DNA says about how you deal with certain nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients, as well as exercise, obesity risk, hormonal health, mental health. So it's quite a comprehensive test that we do.
So for our viewers that's listening to us right now, I know I went on your website, you have a couple of different DNA tests, which is one is Match My Meds,
yep,
and the other one is Love My Health. So maybe Moni, so if somebody does Match My Meds, what information are they getting from DNA Labs?
They will be getting a report that will tell you what prescription medication you can take, whether you can take what dose. It helps the doctor prescribe it better. It's a guideline, whether it's pain medication, whether it's a psychiatric drug, whether it's blood thinners. There's a wide array of drugs that we cover. So if somebody needs it, rather than going through trial and error, and a doctor prescribing one medication that doesn't necessarily work for everyone, may work for you, may not work for me or anybody, or my relative. That not two people are alike.
If I can just jump in,
yeah, go ahead.
Just to sort of explain how that test works. Everyone metabolizes drugs at different rates. So, if I take a drug and I metabolize it too quickly, then it flows through my body so fast that it never really accumulates to therapeutic level. So the drug doesn't work; it's ineffective. Conversely, if I take that same drug but I metabolize it too slowly, then it stays in our system. And then I take another dose the next day, another dose the next day, and suddenly the levels are too high and they're toxic. And that's when you can have unwanted side effects. So the genes that metabolize drugs are so well characterized at this point that there's actually guidelines for doctors that tell doctors how to prescribe certain drugs based on their patient's genetics. So what's missing is the patient's genetics, and that's where we come in. So we provide a report for the doctor that makes it very easy for them to see which drugs are compatible, which ones might be ineffective, which ones might need a higher dose or a lower dose, and that sort of thing.
So for the viewers that are listening to us, so if they take that genetic testing, which is Match My Meds, so they will be able to see so how do you show that? Is it yellow, green,
exactly.
red? Okay.
Exactly, yeah. So we have like the stoplight approach. So green check mark would mean that there's the drug should be prescribed as directed. If it's a yellow caution sign, you can prescribe the drug, but you might need a dosage adjustment or some other caution to look out for. And if there's a red X, then that means, don't use that drug. You might want to select an alternative if there's one available.
And they just have to do this once?
Yep, your DNA doesn't change over the course of your lifetime. So you do the test once and the report's good forever.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit more about Love My Health. What would I see from Love My Health?
Sure. So the Love My Health test is very similar in terms of all of our tests start with a simple cheek swab, so the inside of your cheek, send it into us. But with Love My Health, instead of looking at enzymes that metabolize drugs, we're looking at enzymes that metabolize nutrients and macronutrients. So we have a diet and we have a specific nutrient needs section that looks at, iron, risk for iron deficiency or too much iron. We look at omega-3, probiotics, antioxidants, all the vitamins, A, B, C, D, E. We also have a sensitivity section. So we look at gluten, lactose, sodium, that sort of thing. So we look at how the body's, and alcohol is in there as well, and caffeine as well. So we look at how the body reacts to those types of things. We also have a mental health section that looks at stress and mood and anxiety. We have a hormonal health section that looks at thyroid, testosterone, and estrogen. We look at obesity risk. So it's quite a comprehensive test that you get. The report is actually about 50 pages long. So there's also a web-based version of the report that's it's like a web-based experience. You can log in and click through the different sections to learn about yourself.
So as an individual, then when I get that result back, it would tell me what kind of nutrition diet I should have, exercise, and what am I prone as well to? Like what I should avoid? Does it tell me what food I should avoid, or does it just tell me what food I should be maybe consuming more often?
Both. So, if you have risk for, celiac disease, for example, so the test might tell you might want to avoid gluten. Try cutting it out of your diet, see if that improves your symptoms. And of course, it might show that you have risk for certain, like iron deficiency, for example. So you might want to make sure that you're getting enough iron in your diet, that sort of thing.
And I think that's really excellent because a lot of people consume so much products, food, and sometimes they have aches and pains. Like personally myself, I think I'm gluten intolerant now, but it's something only that came with age though. Every time I eat anything gluten, my stomach hurts. And the moment I eliminate it, it stops. It's great to be able to know exactly the type of food you should consume so that you are at your maximum health and wellness.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's also a lot of illness is because of a lifetime accumulation of toxins. So we look at how your body's detoxification pathways are working. So if you're not, genetically prone to clearing out toxins very efficiently, there are certain foods to avoid, supplements to take to sort of support those pathways to make sure that you're detoxing properly, and it'll give you a much better chance of not getting the disease later in life.
So, Dr. Goldman, that DNA testing will give you all of that information?
Yep.
That's
It's a
pretty
lot, I know.
incredible. Yeah, that is incredible. For the viewers out there who really wants to take that test, I think your website is DNA Labs, and we'll put it at the end as well too. And they can. So, how does a consumer who's listening to this show request one of those DNA tests?
Yeah, so they can go to our website, as you said, dnalabs.ca, and you can order the test online. And we ship a kit directly to your home. You swab your cheek. Inside the kit, there's a prepaid Canada Post mailer for those in Canada, USPS mailer in the US. It's a prepaid mailer that you just pop back in the mail. Once we receive it, it takes about 2 weeks, and you'll get your report delivered through a HIPAA-compliant portal, like a secure web-based portal that you can view and download your report.
Okay. So Moni, can you share with us some of your success stories?
Sure. One of our best success stories was a recent study that was published in the Journal of American Medical Association. It had to do with a study that we conducted with the Hospital for Sick Children in Toronto. All the viewers here, I assume, would know that is the #1 pediatric hospital in the world. And that study showed that 80% of the children that took the test benefited from our testing. And this is something we're very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
And have you collaborated with any other hospitals?
Yes, we are collaborating. We're working with Sunnybrook on a study for stroke prevention, and we're working with a couple of other hospitals around.
Okay. And the other piece that I wanted to, if you had to tell folks or viewers there, what would be the key reason why they should take a DNA lab test?
If you want to live a healthy lifestyle, that is tailored to your genes, the future is personalized medicine, personalized health. It tailors whether it's the medication that you're going to be taking or have been taking that may not be working, or whether it's you want to get on the right diet, the right exercise, the right supplement regime to make sure that the lifestyle that you're keeping is optimal. So you want to avoid, you want to be proactive so that you live a healthy lifestyle.
And you said the word here is proactive, because most of the time we are very reactive, right? A lot of people are on so many different types of medications, and they have so many different side effects, and then they have to take other medication to address the side effect, right? And at the end of the day, they are taking these big concoctions of medications. And I think with DNA Labs, what you guys are providing and doing, it will really help them knowing what is the right medication for them to take if they need to take one. But most importantly, the Love My Health, I think that's incredible, because they will be able to know exactly the type of nutrition, diet, exercise, things they should eat or they should avoid to have that optimal health. So Dr. Goldman, what is the future of DNA Labs?
It's a great question. So I think at the moment, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. So I'll give you an example. Our Love My Health test covers about 85 different genetic variants, but we're walking around with millions of them. We actually have 3 billion letters in our DNA. So we're only looking at about like less than 100 of them at the moment. The reason why we're only looking at that small number, relative small number, is because our reports are based on studies that are published. So we know from what's called genome-wide association studies what genes are associated with certain outcomes, it's peer-reviewed, so it's statistically significant. That's what we're adding to our test. So we're constantly adding new findings to our testing products as time goes on. When we first launched Match My Meds, I think it had under 50 drugs. Now we're up to about 125 drugs at the moment. So we continue to add to our tests. On the nutrition lifestyle side, we recently added a fertility add-on to the test. So we talk about nutrigenomics and nutrition lifestyle DNA testing in the context of fertility. We're always looking at the research and adding new genes, adding new recommendations. So the future is just going to be a lot more information and a lot more just a lot more information from our DNA. It's just the DNA side. When we're talking about long-term future, we're talking about, not just DNA, but also RNA and protein and real-time analysis of biomarkers in your body through your watch band or whatever. But that's still a ways away. But I think the future is very exciting in this field.
It is. And you know what? I'm super excited, especially when technology meets nutrition, meet balance, because you also mentioned mental health earlier. So what are the information that they provide when it comes to Love My Health, when it comes to mental wellness and mental health?
Sure. Yeah. We have different sections. So one's mood, addiction, memory, stress, that sort of thing. And I'll just give you an example. There's one gene that you might have heard of. It's been in the media a little bit as the worrier or warrior gene. So there's a gene where you might have the worrier version where you don't clear away neurotransmitters in your brain quickly enough. So you dwell on things and you stress about things, and you might do better at cognitive tasks like myself. And I fall in that category. Or you might have the warrior version of the gene where you clear away the dopamine in your brain really quickly and you move on to the next thought. So you don't really stress about things. Warriors are more likely to be risk takers. They have a higher pain tolerance, that sort of thing. So that's just one example from that section.
So that is very interesting, because I'm listening to this and I'm like, so many people try to kind of figure out their personality by going to therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to know how to deal with things, how to deal with stress. So Moni or Dr. Goldman, when it comes to this mental DNA, are you then explaining to the folks what is their personality type or how they address issues? What information is provided to them?
Yeah, I can take this one. So just to continue on with this warrior example, we look at a gene that encodes an enzyme that cleans out dopamine in the brain. And if you have a slow version of that gene, the dopamine sticks around for longer. Now, luckily, everything on our reports are what we call actionable. So we're not going to tell you that you have a gene for stress and you're going to be stressed for the rest of your life. This gene just so happens to use magnesium as a cofactor. And there's also some vitamins that are used as cofactors in some of these pathways. So we provide nutrition and lifestyle recommendations so you can sort of help support those pathways. I should mention that everything that we look at in these tests are commonly found in the population. So it's not like the Huntington's gene, for example, it's in 1 in 10,000 people. And if you have that gene, then you're going to get the disease and it's going to be terrible for you. That's not what this test is all about. It's really more about understanding where you fit in the general population. So some of the markers are found in like 20, 30, 40% of the population. So it's just, in Health Canada, I'll give you an example. When Health Canada says that adults should take 1,000 units of vitamin D, that's based on an entire population. Some people might need more, some people might need less. So we can help figure out where you stand with respect to the rest of the population.
So Love My Health, we identify the tendency of the mental challenges that individual will have based on their unique genetics makeup. And then you will also let them know what they should be doing to counter that. And vitamin D actually is a great example. Personally, I used to take 1,000 and then I realized it wasn't enough. I had to go up to 6,000 IUs. Again, because of your genetics, your background, South Asian, darker skin. I don't absorb a lot of vitamin D very quickly. And a lot of people doesn't know that. It's by trial and error that you get to know that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's very, very interesting. And you mentioned earlier too, for Match My Medication, there's currently 120 of them. And are these the top issues that we are seeing today in Canada or North America from a health perspective for those medications? Are they the most popular medication?
So yes and no. So yes, they are. A lot of them are very commonly prescribed medications. The way we don't add every single drug that's on the market to our test because there's not evidence behind a lot of them. So we're very strict, we're very conservative, and we only add drugs to our test panel when there's enough evidence that the genetics can actually play a role in the metabolism. So, one example is Prozac. That's a drug that would be great if we can add to the panel. But when you look at the data, you look at the drug label itself, it says there's no difference between those that metabolize it slowly and metabolize it quickly for that particular drug. So we don't have that one on the panel. But we have plenty of others. Like I said, there's over 120. So there's a lot of really commonly prescribed drugs on there. The biggest impact areas, I would say, are the mental health drugs, because those are notoriously difficult to get right. So we have lots of the tricyclic antidepressants and other anti-anxiety medications, SSRIs. Cardiovascular is a huge area for pharmacogenetics. So there's a drug called Plavix, which is prescribed very, very commonly. And, a big chunk of the population cannot metabolize it properly. So they're taking the drug thinking that their blood's being thin, but it's not working for them. So the only way you find out is with another heart attack or a stroke. So in that area, it's extremely important. Pain is another big area for pharmacogenetics, including some of the opioids that are out there, ibuprofen and other commonly prescribed drugs. A lot of the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors that are used for heartburn, like Nexium and that sort of thing, are very commonly prescribed as well. Those are covered on the panel.
So, Moni, quick question for you. So, if somebody does that genetic testing once and there's 120 medication, and you guys add more medication, do you systematically then send them those results, or do they have to do another one in a few years as you're adding more medication?
So long as they don't ask, so long as there are no new genes being discovered. Right now, we're looking at certain genes, so anything newly that comes out gets added to the report, and we can reprocess it easily. But if a new gene gets discovered in a year or two, then in which case somebody will have to get resolved.
Okay. And I think personally, I am absolutely amazed about this for both of it, because we've taken so many medications that have adverse risks. And I don't even know the statistic. I know there's a lot of people that get hospitalized because they were prescribed the wrong medication. And it's incredible for the work that you're doing today and to help the community, to help Canadians.
According to statistics that I read in the US, it's a fourth leading killer, adverse drug reaction. It goes, number one is heart, number two is cancer, number three stroke, number four is adverse drug reaction. Every 2 minutes, somebody dies from taking the wrong medication in the US.
Yeah.
And that can help. That's a future. That's where we're coming. And yes, we look at 120 drugs, but it's 120 drug compounds. That's translating into thousands of drugs at the end. Like codeine is found in, which is only one drug on the report, but it's found in how many different medications as a compound.
Yeah.
That is a scary statistic. And I wonder what the Canadian statistic is. I'm not sure if you have that, Moni, for the risk adverse.
It's very similar. It's very similar.
Very similar, yeah.
So I know we have to wrap up soon. So Dr. Goldman, I ask you first, what will be the top 3 reasons why you will encourage our viewers to take a DNA lab test?
Well, sure. Well, the most obvious one is if you're on a medication and you don't think it's working, or if you're going to be prescribed one of the medications that's on our panel, it's sort of a no-brainer. It's really valuable. Like I said, your DNA doesn't change, so you might need it today for like a cardiovascular drug, but you might need it for a mental health drug 5 years from now. So once you buy it once, it's good forever. And then, as Moni mentioned, just the Love My Health panel is really geared towards anyone that is really a health enthusiast that wants to live their best life and be really informed about some of the choices that they're making. And if, as a third, I'll just throw out the fertility add-on. So if you're a couple that's trying to conceive, sometimes a nutrition approach can really help you, because we know things like iron deficiency can impact sperm and egg quality, or all the different vitamin deficiencies can have an effect as well. So understanding how your body works can be important in that respect as well.
Thank you, Dr. Goldman. And Moni, I'll throw it over to you here with 2 minutes left. Quickly, what will be the top 3 reasons, if you want to add anything else, what folks should be taking a DNA labs?
So we'll separate the 2 tests. Number 1 is a match meds. Anybody that's about to have a procedure, for example, or that's going to get something prescribed, somebody that's been off work for mental health. So if somebody's about to get on prescribed medication, like whether it's for mental health, if somebody's off for depression, anxiety, they're home, they can't get on the right medication. If somebody is about to undergo a procedure where they're going to have to be on a pain medication or a blood thinner, there are lots of reasons why somebody needs to take it in advance of doing something as opposed to after. You need to be proactive. And when it comes to Love My Health, the same thing. Just you want to know that you're living lifestyle, that you want to minimize illnesses in the future, and you want to live the best life you can, and you can do it based on your own DNA.
Thank you, Moni, and thank you so much, Dr. Goldman, for this great information. I was extremely excited, I have to say, the first time that I heard about DNA labs, because I think what you're doing will really, really help folks to live their best lives. So thank you again for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And for our viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be sharing all the information at the end of the show, as well as the social media and the URL where you can reach out to DNA Lab if you want to get one of those tests done. I'm looking forward to sharing more information with you in the future about mental health and wellness. Until then, stay positive and start believing.